Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Step Up to the Mic. This is the place for aspiring and established speakers to take the stage, to deliver their talks, and to bring them directly to you. Folks, today's featured speaker. She is a certified high performance career coach. She is a keynote speaker, and she is the host of the hit podcast, No Woman Left Behind. Please welcome to the stage, Rosie Zilinskas.
I am 40 years old and I am in my cubicle, in my corporate job, and I'm typing away and I'm thinking, any day now, somebody is going to notice my hard work. I literally thought that someone was going to come and tap me on the shoulder and give me a promotion. You see, at the time, I was an insurance underwriter in the property and casualty insurance industry. And I was a high performer. And I knew that I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to do something better. I wasn't sure what that was, but I knew that I wanted to make an impact and influence my organization in a positive way. One of the things that I noticed, though, is that younger people than I, and again, I'm 40 at the time, were getting promoted and nothing was happening for me. So I started asking myself, what am I doing wrong? I'm stuck and I have no idea how to get unstuck. One day, I finally got the courage to go and talk to a senior executive. I prepared all my documents, I got all of my accomplishments, and I had my script that I was going to talk to him about. So the day of the luncheon comes and I do my thing. I'm talking about the training that I'm doing and I'm backing up my manager and I'm the resource person and I'm a high performer at this point. And I said to the senior executive, I said, I want to talk about being considered for a leadership position. And the response that I got shocked me. He said, oh, really? I'm like thinking to myself, and it took me like 2 or 3 seconds to process those words. What do you mean, oh, really? And when I literally processed that, I said, what do you mean? Oh, really? I'm a high performer. And he said, well, you never said anything. And that's when everything changed for me. It was like a lightning bolt hit me. And I'm thinking to myself, how? How could I have never said anything? Now, interesting enough, I had talked to my direct supervisor, but this was her boss's boss's boss. So it was 3 levels above. And that's when I realized that it was so impactful to talk to the right people in the organization. Hi, I'm Rosie Zilinskas. Welcome to the Unlock the Leader Within talk. This is where we talk about 3 principles where you can dramatically advance your career with intention and confidence. I'm going to start by first explaining I was sabotaging my career at that time. When I was at that desk thinking any day now, somebody is going to notice my hard work, I was sabotaging myself and I didn't even know that I was sabotaging myself. So I want to explain to you, sometimes we encounter what we call, or what I call, is a career saboteur. So when you think of the word saboteur, it's something that destroys things. It doesn't build. It's just wrecking things. So when you're sabotaging yourself, you're not growing and evolving. You're keeping yourself small. So there's a couple of ways that you may be sabotaging yourself. The first way is you can be passively sabotaging yourself. So for my situation, I was passively sabotaging myself because I didn't realize that I needed to go talk to certain key people. I thought that just by talking to my supervisor, it was going to be enough. So I was passively sabotaging myself. The second way that you sabotage yourself is by actively sabotaging yourself. And I'm going to talk more about this a little bit later, but if you see a job opening and you know that you want that job and you think to yourself, "Oh, I want to apply to that job," but you don't apply, and you know you really should be working on applying for the job, that's how you may be actively sabotaging yourself. So I just wanted to show how there is a way that you don't even know that you're sabotaging yourself, and then sometimes you do know that you're sabotaging yourself. So that's what I'm calling a career saboteur. Now, just to do a quick check-in with yourself, and I know you're all just listening, but if you have ever been uncertain about where you are in your career, if you have ever had any self-doubt, if you ever fallen into the comparison trap, those are ways that you may be sabotaging yourself because of the way that you're thinking about yourself, your career, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through 3 career saboteurs. And I'm going to tell you what they are now, and then I'm going to go into them. The very first one is that you may not believe that you're deserving or worthy of the career of your dreams. The second one is that you may be operating from a fixed mindset perspective versus a growth mindset perspective. And then the third one is that you do not have a focused strategy for your career. So those are the 3 saboteurs that I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so let's go back to the very first career saboteur. You may not believe that you're deserving or worthy. Now, a lot of this has to do with your thoughts, the ideas that are crossing through your head. And many people don't realize that not every thought that you think is true. And that's where you need to start becoming aware of the types of ideas and the types of thoughts that run through your head. Some of the things that you may be thinking that cause you to believe that you're not deserving may be, "I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve that position." It could be, "I'm never going to get promoted." It could be, "Nobody's ever going to hire me," especially in this day and age right now. A lot of people are thinking, "What's wrong with me?" All of those things are thoughts and ideas, also called limiting beliefs, that are holding you back. Now, all of these thoughts and ideas, I call them sabotage salad. So you're feeding yourself all of these negative thoughts and ideas, and you think that that is reality, when in fact it is absolutely not reality. The key here is that once you become aware of what you're thinking, that becomes empowering to you, and then you can start reframing that. So, 3 different ways that you may feel that you're not deserving is that you're discounting yourself, you're defeating yourself, or you're disqualifying yourself. And I'll give you examples of each of those. When you're discounting yourself, you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, I got this promotion and I just got lucky because there was nobody else that was going to get that promotion." You could be feeling, and I talked to a woman, she was the director of 200 engineers, and she was discounting herself because she said she felt like a fraud. She's like, "I don't really know if I'm doing the right job." But she had been in her position for a couple of years. Or you can be thinking, "I'm way in over my head. They're going to figure out that I don't know what I'm doing." All of those things are ideas where you're thinking, "Did I really earn what I'm doing?" That is a way of you are discounting yourself. The second way that that may show up is that you're in a defeatist mode, meaning you go in, and this is what they call the quiet quitters, but um, it's even worse than that because a quiet quitter, by definition, is someone that clocks in at 8, clocks out at whatever 5, and they do a good job. They're engaged. This is different because when you're in that defeatist mode, you are not working at your maximum capacity. You're kind of coasting, you're not engaged. And according to the Gallup World Poll, 70, that's 70, 70% of people are not engaged in the work that they do. And when you're not engaged, a lot of bad things happen, such as your days are really long. You feel like, why bother? You are not working with your team. You're not providing ideas. All of those things are part of you being in that defeatist mode. It's like, why bother? If that's where you are, you might be in the wrong position or in the wrong company. And then the third way in which not deserving shows up is that you may just disqualify yourself. So I talked about you actively sabotaging yourself. This is a situation where you see a job description and you know that you want to apply and then you don't apply. Now, one interesting statistic, and this is an old statistic by Hewlett Packard, they actually did an overview of their staff. And they found that when there was a job opening, men would apply to that job opening having only 50% of the skills in the job description. And women would wait to apply until they had 100% of those skills. So two things would happen if that situation occurred. One, by the time the woman went to apply for the position would be gone. Because if other people are applying at 50% of the skills, then imagine a lot of time and preparation goes to get 100% of skills. The second thing that would happen is that they would be overqualified. If you see a job description and you have every single qualification in the job description, you are overqualified because there's no room for you to grow. So it's very important for you to be challenged in a job. So now what I would like for you to do is think of a percentage that you would feel comfortable applying to a job description. It could be as low as 50%, like the gentleman did in that study with a Hewlett Packard. It could be 60, it could be 70, but it definitely needs to, you need to pick a number so that you can challenge yourself. I personally think between 60 and 70% is the sweet spot. So again, just to recap, when you are disqualified or when you feel that you're not deserving, you can either discount, defeat, or disqualify yourself. So that is the very first saboteur. So the key here is for you to understand how you may be holding yourself back with your ideas and your thoughts, and for you to be able to reframe that. So I want you to go from being a career saboteur and shift to a career advocate, where you start really reframing those thoughts and ideas so that you can empower yourself. So that's the very first shift from that saboteur. So I want you to go from a career saboteur to a career crusader. And that's the shift right there. The other thing that I want you to think about is that you are now in a position where you can start campaigning for yourself. When I was in that position at 40 years old, about 3 or 4 months, I had my conversation with that senior executive. About 3 months or 4 months after that conversation, I was able to step into a regional underwriting manager position. And it was just good timing. Someone left, and then I was able to apply, and I was awarded the job. So that made me really think about, okay, the first time around, I was sabotaging myself, but now I'm going to campaign for me. And that is exactly what I did. I stepped into my management position, and it took me about 3 years to settle in. But at the 3 year mark, I started campaigning for me. So that's the second thing that I want you to think about when it comes to your mind and your ideas and your actions. I'm campaigning for me. So that is the very first saboteur that I wanted to talk about. So, two quick things. I want you to name your campaign. So it could be vice president in training, it could be manager in training, it could be team lead, in the making, something like that. Name it fun, name it something fun so that you can like really keep that alive. And then the second thing is figure out what percentage of those job description objectives you are going to set for yourself. And then when you see that job opening, go ahead and apply. All right. So that was the first saboteur and the first shift that we've done. Now I want to transition to the second career saboteur, which is you may be operating under the fixed mindset instead of the growth mindset. And what that means is that when you have a fixed mindset, you're in that career saboteur mindset where it's like, oh, woe is me. I'm never going to get hired. I'm never going to get promoted, that kind of thoughts and ideas. But when you are now aware of them and you are actively changing them, then everything changes. And a fantastic resource for this saboteur is Mindset by Carol Dweck. Carol Dweck is a psychologist, and she coined the term fixed and growth mindset. Okay, so I want to give you a pretty easy story or example to illustrate how the fixed mindset works and the growth mindset works. And I know I'm going to date myself here a little bit, but back in the 70s, there was this fantastic tennis player. His name is John McEnroe. And John McEnroe very obviously operated under the fixed mindset. He blamed the weather, he blamed the referee, he blamed the condition of the tennis court. Any loss that he had, it was never his fault. He had a bad temper too, so you could see him, like if you go back on YouTube, throwing rackets and throwing hissy fits. He is a very clear example of someone that is operating in a fixed mindset. Now, when John McEnroe got more mature, he recognized that he was a hothead back in the day. So, okay, now the growth mindset example is another amazing tennis player, Serena Williams. She is the essence of a growth mindset because anytime that Serena Williams lost, she wouldn't look at any external condition. She would look within. How did she sleep? What was her diet? How much did she practice? She looked at her physicality, at her routine. Anything and everything that she knew was a contributing factor to her win, she would look at her film, and then she would adjust it so that she can grow and learn from that situation. So Serena Williams is a growth mindset, and John McEnroe is the fixed mindset. And our job here in this conversation is for you to transition from that fixed mindset to that growth mindset. And again, going through a resource like Mindset by Carol Dweck really gives you that illustration of how you can do that. And this is all great information that you can apply to your children as well, or younger people. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk about as far as the fixed mindset, and it applies to pretty much anywhere, is that an example, when you get feedback, a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, I don't want any constructive criticism. But I believe that feedback is fuel. Instead of looking at getting negative feedback or constructive criticism as a failure, Look at it as you're getting fuel for your career. Because if someone gives you two or three things that you can improve upon, they're literally giving you a little roadmap to continue to get better and better. Most of us have received feedback in a negative feedback, let's call it constructive criticism, in our past life. And it hurts and it stings a little when someone tells you, oh my gosh, Rosie, you're not answering the calls quickly enough, or you're not responding to your clients quickly enough. You need to do better. Anything like that, it's like, oh, you have to give yourself a little bit of love and compassion, dust yourself off, and the next day stand up again and take that feedback. So one of the things that I have my clients do is take a little lap. In sports, and you see a lot of this in like sporting events where some athlete gets upset. And what does the coach say? They're like, take a lap, go breathe it out, take a walk, that kind of thing. So for me, lap is a three word acronym. So the L is for listen, the A is for ask, and the P is for practice. So meaning when you're having a conversation with your manager and they're giving you feedback, you need to go in there ready to hear what they're saying. So really actively listen. You need to ask any clarifying questions. So if they're telling you something that you're not doing properly, ask questions if you don't understand exactly what they're telling you. And then the last one is P. So LAP, listen, ask, and practice. Putting that feedback into practice makes a huge difference. And that's when you can take that feedback and start making it into fuel. So it's so important for you to be able to put that feedback into practice. So by now, you should already have the name of your campaign, the percentage of description that you're going to decide on when you're going to apply for a position. And the third one is you're going to be able to take a lap. So all of these things are going to be building on one another. Just a quick story about Beth. I started working with Beth, and she was in a situation where she was getting poor feedback. We started working together. We went through the entire process of what taking a lap looks like. And originally, Beth had come to me because she had gotten some constructive criticism from her manager, and she was taking it so personally. But when I told Beth, instead of treating feedback as fire, let's treat it as fuel. And she was able to go back to her manager. She was able to apply the taking a lap, listen, ask, and practice. And she was able to implement everything that her manager had shared with her. A year later, Beth was engaged with her team. She was engaged with her clients. She was a customer service representative, so she was not meeting any of her numbers. And she started turning the corner with all of the actively listening, asking, and putting into practice. So Beth was able to get a raise. And then she eventually got promoted as well. So now we have a compounding effect, right? So the first principle is that you now believe that you're deserving because you're no longer eating that sabotage salad. And then now you're going to implement the growth mindset. And so we with both of those components together, you start getting a compounding effect of change and career shifts. Okay, so the third and final career saboteur is that you do not have a focused strategy. So if you have no flight plan, there is no career growth. And everybody knows that in the United States, you are not able to fly a plane without a federally filed flight plan. So without that flight plan, that plane is not going to take off. Same thing with your career. A lot of times, especially women, we're the caregivers, the care provider, so we take care of everybody else and we leave our careers on autopilot. So you think, okay, autopilot, that's cool. But if something is left on autopilot, that means that you're not paying attention. So years can go by and your career and you're exactly in the same spot because you're not paying attention. Remember, I started my story with I'm 40 and I'm sitting there and I'm just waiting and waiting. Well, I didn't have a focus strategy back then. And so when you feel stuck, there's no promotions, there's no salary increases, you feel like you're spinning your wheels, you see others advancing, which is what happened to me, and there's no plan, there's no direction. And once you are able to understand that you need to create a plan for yourself, then everything changes. So, what I do with my clients is we create a promotion readiness roadmap. So, what does that mean? Essentially, what that means is that when you see an opportunity for yourself, you're not scrambling to try to update your resume, update your LinkedIn, figure out what you're going to say during the interview. You have all those pieces in place, and there's so much more that goes into the roadmap. But so there's four phases to the promotion readiness roadmap. The very first one is that you have to figure out what is it that you aspire to do? What is it that you love? That will give you an indication if you're in the right position and in the right company. The second phase is the assess phase, where you want to assess your skills. The more you're able to know about yourself, to learn about yourself, the more you're able to explain to other people how you can help them solve their problem. I want you to pay attention here. You're helping them solve their problem, not your problem. And you're doing that through your knowledge and your skills. And that's what you're bringing to the table. The third phase is advice. This is where you go and you talk to a lot of executives, managers, leaders, and you ask them, hey, how did you get to where you are? What did you do? What advice can you give me? And at the same time, share with them what your aspirations were. That's what I ended up doing when I went from a manager to an executive vice president, and I started campaigning for me. I started asking and telling people, how did you do it? And this is what I want to do. And so that advice also applies to your peers. You can ask, what do I do well? And what can I do better? And you need to give them permission to be honest so they can give you good feedback that you can implement and start putting into practice. And then finally, that fourth phase is advocacy. Now that you know what you want to do and you know your skills and you've gotten some advice, now you want to start advocating for yourself. And again, that's where I went wrong because I had done the first three phases, but I didn't think it was necessary for me to go out and tell people. So that's what I call advocacy. Go out and network with people, let them know what you're up to, let them know how you can help them solve their problems through your knowledge and your skills. Now, this promotion readiness roadmap, it doesn't happen overnight. It definitely takes time. But if you take 2 hours a month, you're going to move the needle little by little so that you can start making an impact in the long run. So now you start even getting a bigger compounding effect. Again, now you believe that you're deserving and worthy. Now you're operating with a growth mindset. And now you can start working on creating your focused strategy, your plan, your roadmap, whatever you want to call it. But once you have those three principles in place, that's when the magic happens. And again, this is a process where you need to tell yourself, I'm campaigning for me. because that's what's going to move the needle. So, from today's conversation, again, you created a campaign for yourself. You now know what percentage you're going to review on descriptions to apply. You now know how to take a lap. And then the last thing is that you now know what you need to do from a roadmap perspective so that you can move your career forward. And that's what makes all the difference. I started doing this work because right around 40, I had gone through a really horrible divorce. I was married for about 10 years, and then things went south, and I went through a terrible legal battle and I had two kids at the time. They were 4 and 6, and they were my big why. I went to talk to that senior executive because I was now financially solely responsible for my children, and I needed to make more money. The only way that I knew to make more money was to get promoted. And that's why I do the work that I do today, because from all of the experience that I did, I knew that I needed to take care of my kids. And the day that an opening um, opened up, a job opened up for the home office executive vice presidency position, I knew that that was my job. But here's the thing. I won that job not because I was the smartest person, although I know I'm really smart, but I can tell you I was the most prepared person. And so I think there were 4 executives that were interviewing people. There were 10 candidates. It was like really cutthroat competition. But I had my brother-in-law interview me, my sister interview me. I went to the library. I got that book, What Color is My Parachute, and other great resources. I did every exercise in that book. And everything that I now have in my promotion readiness roadmap is something that I did through that process. And I will tell you that I won that job through preparation, preparation, preparation. So it's a big deal for you to know like what your why is and how is it that you aspire to do things. I am Rosie Zilinskas. I am here to empower individuals in their corporate careers to advance their careers with intention and confidence. I hope this gives you a little bit of knowledge, of inspiration on how you can use these 3 principles to become your own career advocate. So, with that, remember to be brave, be bold, and take action.
Rosie Zilinskas, everybody. Rosie, that was absolutely fantastic. I loved your delivery and the whole bit. And I love the fact that you're such an advocate for empowerment. I know that you talked a little bit about it, throughout the speech, but if you don't mind me asking, I mean, where did that come from exactly?
Rory, that actually came from my mom. As I was growing up, she would always tell us, and I'm one of 4 sisters, you have to have a career so that if anything were to happen in your life, you can take care of yourself and your children. And of course, I go through this terrible divorce, and I find myself, again, solely financially responsible for my children. And I knew that I needed to take care of them, and I was going to do anything and everything to secure that they had good educations and a good home. And one of the things that I show in my in-person live signature talks is a picture of me finally getting back on my feet and purchasing a home for my kids and I. And it was one of the happiest, most proud days of my life because I knew that through my hard work, I was able to take care of my family. And I'm really passionate to share that message and to tell others that it is also possible through for them through preparation. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest takeaway I think out of my talk.
Well, I love that. I'll tell you what you talked about all the different ways that we sabotage ourselves. Why do you suppose we do that in so many different ways? Any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think, and I primarily speak to women in corporate. It's hands down how we have been socialized. It's the message that, comes for hundreds and thousands of years that, women are there to assist, the man type thing. But that doesn't mean that we can't change that message. And myself and many millions of people are now sharing the message of awareness that you have the power to change the way you think and act just through preparation, knowledge. There's so many podcasts, so many books. Like that mindset book by Carol Dweck is phenomenal. So that's a little bit about, why we are where we are.
Yeah, I understand. And since you just brought up some podcasts, I did want to ask you also, you're the host of the hit podcast No Woman Left Behind. What made you start that?
Well, it was kind of just an easy way for me to start getting my message out. The message that I am here to empower women. And again, it's like when I hear myself say those words, I think of myself as a little girl. My mom's like, you need an education. You need to be able to take care of yourself. You need to be able to take care of your kids. And, my mom was one of 10 kids. So she grew up with very, a meager life, financially. And so when when all of us were at home, she wanted better for us. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, that empowerment for other women, especially the ones that are coming up behind me, the younger women.
Love it. Well, you're doing a great job, and I love the podcast. I had a chance to listen to several of your episodes, and they were very, very good. So I recommend it highly, and I hope you continue with that.
Thank you. Yes, I took a little hiatus and we're now going to start recording again. So we're definitely going to continue the conversation.
Nice, nice. All right, Rosie, tell everybody how they can reach you, how they can find you, how they can look up all of this fabulous material.
Yeah, the easiest way is to go on my website. My website is nowomanleftbehind.com, and that's WOMAN for woman. And then the second place is on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm always posting little tidbits on how you can take one action today to empower yourself in your career.
Nice, nice, beautiful. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes for you. Rosie Zilinskas, certified high performance career coach, keynote speaker, and like I said before, host of the hit podcast No Woman Left Behind. Rosie, thank you so much for coming here today, delivering such a fantastic and very well put together and delivered talk. And I wish you all the best moving forward. That was great.
Thank you so much, Rory. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Folks, that's been another spectacular episode of Step Up to the Mic. If you're an aspiring or current speaker and you want to bring your talk to the masses, message us today. Never stop talking and let us help you step up to the mic.